The Michael Berry Show.
Degreefree.com. Degreefree.com. This woman helps folks get jobs without buying college degree. Tech to trades, she describes it. She's based in Montgomery, Texas, and that gives me occasion to pay tribute to, I believe, the late great. I think he passed because I never got to meet him, and I was bummed about that. It's relatively recently. Francis Rodney Zambone, I believe is his name. Francis Rodney Zambone was from Montgomery. He wrote under the name Mark James. I wish he'd kept Zambone because I think Frank Zambone. I like that better than Mark James. Mark James is just, but anyway, he wrote Always on My Mind that Elvis made famous, Moody Blues, Suspicious Minds. The only Elvis song, Ramon, that I ever know of being covered with any facility, with any success, and that was Dwight Yoakam's version, and that's because he took it to punk country, and so that changed the style, and I think that's the only reason I tolerate it. He wrote Hooked on a Feeling for what's his name, for B.J. Thomas. Anyway, he was from Montgomery. She's from what? That's all he wrote. That's just a few of what he wrote. Her name is Hannah or Hana. Before we ask her, what do you think it is? You going to go Hannah? Okay. Hannah Maruyama. Maruyama. Probably a good Japanese name. The website is Degree Free. This is the kind of thing that I think could help a lot of folks. So, Hannah or Hana, which is it?
It's Hannah. It's Hannah. Thank you so much for having me on, Michael.
Now tell me, you reached out to me with a kind of here's what I do, or your PR person did, or whatever. Did you know this is something? Now don't lie. Did you know this is something that I talk about often, or were you just scattershotting out there to everybody that might put you on?
No, sir. I had a list, and you were on it, and I did do a little bit of research prior before I gave instructions to my guy to reach out.
Okay. Your site, degreefree.com. The book you can get wherever you buy books. It's called Degree Free Way Workbook Parent. What is your purpose here? What are you trying to accomplish?
What I'm trying to do is I am trying to keep the next generation of Americans out of unnecessary student loan debt, and I am trying to save them hundreds of thousands of dollars in years of their lives that they do not have to spend on a college campus learning from people who have never done the things that they are teaching them how to do.
And what got you interested? Did you have experience in your own life or with your children with this?
I do. So I personally just finished working in AI and machine learning for the past 3.5, almost 4 years, and I built a fairly successful tech career where I out-earned the median PhD by, I would say, probably about 250%, and I did that without buying a college degree myself. And seeing what I saw when I was doing that really helped me to understand how employers are hiring, and then the disconnect and the amount of misinformation there is around what parents think their kids have to do to get the jobs that are actually going to help them live the way they want to.
Wait a minute. You're a redhead. Did you know she's a redhead? She doesn't sound like a redhead. What is your maiden name? O'Shaughnessy or something?
It's Shattuck, but yes, I am very Irish. My husband's the Hawaiian Japanese one.
Well, Hawaiian Japanese is our executive producer, Chad Nakanishi, so you're in good company here. I'm looking at your husband.
Oh.
Yeah, he's thicker than Chad, but I think Chad could take him because Chad fights every day. And what does Mr. Maruyama do?
Boxer?
What is he's a boxer?
No. I was asking if Chad was a boxer.
He's really more a ground game guy. Although if I brag on him at this point, he says, I'm not any good anymore. But he's got the cauliflower ears. He trains every day, but he can't strike anymore because his shoulder is destroyed and he doesn't want to have another surgery on it. He has absolutely ruined his body by fighting so long. He came back the other day and he had a big old scrape across his leg, and he leaves in the middle of the day. So we work like 2 shifts. He gets in insanely early. He gets up and works out at 2:30. He gets in at, I think, 4 or 4:30. Who knows? Nobody's here yet. And he preps all the way up till 11:30, leaves, goes and trains, and then comes back at 2, and then he's here and for who knows however many hours. Like he works a graveyard shift compared to the rest of us because it's all he has to get his training in. So, what does Mr. Maruyama do?
Mr. Maruyama runs all of the other side of the business so that all I get to do is talk about the problems that I see, the solutions that we can make, and then work with the young adults. And so he does all the boring back of the house stuff for the business so I can do all the fun stuff.
So I looked y'all up, and it says, I don't know how old you are now, but y'all were 29 and 26 at the time, and you were living in Honolulu. I'm assuming that's where he's from. Chad's from the Big Island, by the way. And then, and you're from Montgomery. Y'all decided to come back here?
So I'm actually not from Montgomery myself. My husband is from Hawaii. His entire family is from there. I lived there when my dad was in the military, and that's actually how we ended up meeting. But we moved to Montgomery during COVID because Hawaii got pretty crazy during the lockdowns, and so we decided that that was not a fit for our family and the things that we wanted to, the way we wanted to live our lives. And so we came here. We picked it off a spreadsheet. We did a bunch of research about places that were good to live, and this is the place that we ended up. And we've been here for 4 years, and we love it.
That's crazy. Nobody's in Montgomery from Hawaii because people are in Montgomery because they got a job, their family lived there, and they're there and they like it. But nobody looks at a map and says, "Well, I guess we'll end up in Montgomery, Texas." That is nuts.
We did.
Okay.
It was top of the list. It was top of the Excel sheet.
Did you go to college?
I did not. I'm degree free. So I guess technically I did.
I like it how you make it sound like it's a disease. I'm degree free. I'm safe.
Well, if you've met a recent college graduate, you know it is a little bit, but I went for about. I actually got into a university when I was 16. I dual enrolled where I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, because my dad was stationed there in between me moving back to Hawaii, and I ended up fully dual enrolled. And then my experience in college was that I did not do well because I ask why too often, and my professors were not interested in people that ask why and don't adhere to the orthodoxy that's present on campus. And because of that, I think that the way that I thought or the questions that I asked were more of an inconvenience, which kind of shocked me because I wasn't expecting it to be so anti-intellectual when I went on a college campus.
Yeah. Hold on just a moment.
But
our guest is Hannah Maruyama. The website is degree free. I was poking around on it during the break. There's a lot there, and you can learn a lot about her. And then she's got books. There's a one-on-one you can do with her. And yes, it will cost money. I know people, nobody has a problem paying for some things, but they don't want to pay for other things. It's the craziest thing. The legal work is the funniest one for me, Hannah. People would, hey, you have a lawyer who just looked this over for me real quick? Yeah, before I do that, what's your budget of what you're willing to pay? Well, I don't need to hire them anything. I just wanted to look it over. But you understand they're looking it over because they spent all this money to go to law school. Lawyering is the one thing people think they ought to get for free. Like they want to walk right up to the edge of when they'll ever have to spend $1 and then pull back. So they get enough legal advice but never have to pay for it. Nobody says, I'm going to go to the dentist. He can clean about half my teeth, but don't give me the fluoride rinse or any of that. Just half, and then when it's not free anymore, let me know and I'll get up and run out. It's the weirdest thing. Anyway, I like what you're doing here, Hannah. What are some the 10 cool careers teens can land without a degree? Let's talk about what kind of careers we're talking about. It's not all digging ditches.
No, it's definitely not, Michael. And that's actually one of the things that, while I do appreciate a lot of the people who do talk about this, people who have done a lot of work raising awareness about the trades, people like Mike Rowe, and that comes to mind where he frequently talks about this. But the thing for me that stands out is a lot of kids already know about the trades. They can see the trades. They already know about jobs they can see. One of the things that we found when we work with young adults at Degree Free is that they're very limited. They only really can name about 6 to 8 jobs, sometimes 12 on the high end, but they're all jobs you can see. There's a reason they all want to be cops, firefighters, teachers, doctors, nurses. And then every girl you meet right now, every teenage girl wants to be a psychologist. And I think it's because a lot of the teachers just wish they had become psychologists.
Well, and because these girls are all going to therapy.
That's a whole other issue.
They're all going to therapy. Everyone.
Yes, that's right. So it's something they can see. And so one of the things that's such a rub for me is that a lot of these kids know about the trades. The problem is that not everybody wants to go into the trades, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so Ryan, my husband, was a firefighter. Actually, he has an economics degree that he didn't use, and then he became a firefighter later in life. My own youngest sister is actually a structural welder at a steel company. She currently works on rocket ships. She makes more
That's
than the
hot.
median master's degree holder. She's the only, it is
really,
hot,
really
and she's
warm.
also the only girl at the whole steel company.
Oh, no, I
I'm pretty
meant
proud
in
of her.
terms of,
But
it's really, you could sweat a lot at that job.
oh no, she does. She gets burned all the time too. But
That's cute.
she
I do think that's
yeah,
cool, and I do think
she
it's
does
hot,
hard work.
actually. So let's talk about some more of these jobs.
Hard working.
Let's talk about some more of these careers people can have.
One that I really think people need to know about that doesn't fall into, I'm going to give you a bunch. All of them are going to out-earn the average master's degree holder. None of them require college degrees. Your child does not have to buy a college degree to do these things. And none of them are actually trades. So the first one is pilot. Right now, there's not a single U.S. airline that still requires a college degree to become a pilot. Delta was the last one to remove it in 2022. So it's old news.
Which is probably surprising for a lot of people.
I think a lot of people don't know that because people tend to be pretty surprised when I say it. Also, there are flight schools. Your average flight school right now with a guaranteed pipeline into one of these airlines is going to cost you less than the average bachelor's degree, which is going to run you about 104 to 156K. And so if you want your child to have a high earning skill that's tied to a legal license, then a pilot's license is definitely a good one. The next, in Houston specifically too, is going to be cloud computing specialist, which is it's a type of data tech certification, and Houston is getting an inflow of data centers. There's a ton of work in those. It's a little bit of software, a little bit of hardware, a little bit of electrical work, but it's not a trade necessarily. It also crosses into cybersecurity, high paying, high demand. A lot of people will train on the job for that. Surgical technologists, also high demand. That's very medical. You assist in operating rooms, and it's a CERT program. Huge shortage of fire alarm installation techs, so NICET certifications where they go in and train them how to actually, do low voltage installation, and that leads directly into business ownership for a lot of kids too.
Can I interrupt you, Hannah? I have a friend who has a company called Platinum Environmental, and they've got, you said NICET or NICET, however you want to pronounce it. He got certified for environmental remediation and environmental consulting. They're working on the border wall. He's doing city, county, state work, federal. It's amazing. Hold on. Degreefree.com. Stay tuned.
Lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Hannah Maruyama is our guest. Degreefree.com. I want to go back to those careers you talked about, but I want to talk about what the one-on-one sessions look like.
Sure. So do you want me to do the careers first and finish up that list?
How many more did you have?
I got 5 more.
Okay, why don't you do one career and then like a minute on the one-on-one and then one career. No, I'm just kidding. Finish the careers. Go ahead.
Gotcha. My next one, I have a young lady pursuing this right now. Actually, she's in Louisiana, is court reporting and stenography, which is a really, really good, great job, a lot of flexibility. She wants to be a mom long term, so that's something that really fit into what she wants in the future as far as flexible work. Actuary is one that people are often surprised does not require a college degree.
Yeah.
It's a series of very difficult tests, but it is, in fact, there is no degree that is legally required for that job, just persistence and heavy math, heavy stats. Another one that people are overlooking, but there's a lot of retirement in, is construction and oil field scheduling. And that's something that's a little bit like project management, but you can get assistant and junior roles there. Ton of people retiring, great opportunity, great industry. Often that pays over $100,000 as well. So great 6-figure job. Audio engineering, which is big, as you know, broadcasting, film, podcast production, and then digital marketing, which is one that can often be got through very inexpensive, very, very accessible certifications online. And then it's just a matter of, applying to enough jobs.
Well, and then we take for granted, and I think people get burned on this. When I talk about sales jobs, which I know salesmen that make a lot of money, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, that may or may not have college degrees and certainly weren't required to have one, is everybody that wants to get into sales sees a sign while they're driving down the road that says, you can make up to X amount of money, and they're never going to. And it ends up being telemarketing, and nobody wants to do that. They've all seen Glengarry Glen Ross, and they don't want to end up Jack Lemmon's character. But there are lots of small companies and mid-sized companies that are looking for people that are presentable, and that can present, that can communicate, that can show up to work every day. As you know, Hannah, half the battle in being successful is showing up, not being drunk, not being under the influence, not having a bad attitude, looking people in the eyes, delivering on what you're told to do, and managing to show up to work. That is so hard for people to do, especially early in their careers. And if you can do that consistently, especially a small owner-operated, you can end up rising through the ranks. But who am I telling? Tell me about the one-on-one sessions.
Sure. So I'm very proud of the process that we've created, mostly because we've done it through just trial and error, put hundreds of kids through this process at this point. And basically the way we teach young adults to pick careers now is kind of insane. We've completely disregarded Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We don't think about what they actually need to make, where they want to live, how much, what kind of schedule they want to have. And so instead we do the opposite, because right now in high schools are just college pipelines. All they do is sell degrees. All they do is sell paper. And all they do is push 100% of these kids into college. If they don't want to do that, they ignore them. They let them fall through the cracks. And then if the only other tool they have is the military. Now they're kind of using trade schools a little bit, but instead we go, follow your heart. Oh, your test scores are this, so you can be an engineer, or, here's some random personality test. You like to work with your hands, so go be an electrician. That's a terrible, crazy way to have 17 and 18-year-olds choose what they're going to do first after they graduate. And so instead we've done the opposite. So it's a complete 180, which is, what do you want your life to look like? Where do you want to live? Do you want to stay in your hometown? Do you want to move somewhere? And this is a huge one, but schedule, long term. Do you want to have a family? Do you want to be home with your kids? And this is for boys and girls, but one thing that's completely under-addressed to women for sure is that a priority for you? If so, we're looking at a different set of skills, different set of work that's going to help you to accomplish that in your life, because that's what's going to make them actually fulfilled by their job, because their job's not their life. And then after that, we talk about, how much money do you want to make to do the things that you want? Right. A good example is Chad. You're in-house Hawaiian. He trains, and it costs money to train. And so I worked with a young man who really wanted to spend a lot of time training in jiu-jitsu, but that's expensive. As he moves out of his parents' house, he's responsible for his own bills. He's got to make enough money that he can pay to train, and that's something that he cares about. And so we were looking at jobs that will fulfill that, so he can pay for his rent, pay for his food, a lot of protein, and then, go train. And then we also think about the type of schedule that they want to have. Do they want to work, they want to work swing shifts? They want to work oil field work? Do they want to work 4 days a week? Because that's going to give you a different set of jobs. And what's the priority to them? And once we put those things in order, then our team goes out and we just research. We just go out to the whole internet. There's 3,000, 6,000 different jobs out there. We add hundreds more every single month, and we go through and we find where they live or where they want to live, what jobs are going to fit those things, and then what skills employers actually need them to learn. And then we give them options to learn those things. All of them are faster and cheaper than a college degree, because a college degree really just slows you down nowadays. And it costs way too much for what they're going to teach you. And they're actually not going to teach you anything employable. So you're going to get out and have to do the exact same process that we do at Degree Free for 18-year-olds.
What you're talking about there, and this is very important that people hear, is that you have agency over your life. I know so many people, and I've known since I graduated high school, that they get out of school and they're like being blown about like a leaf because they don't know. Nobody told them. And where did you go to work? Well, so-and-so was hiring. What did you do? Well, they put me over here doing this. What were your hours? Well, they had me working overnights. When you create, we live in a glorious time for this. When you create that skill set, or that ideal life for you, and you consider your skill set and passions and all those sorts of things, and you go looking for it, it's amazing. And it might be a dog groomer, it might be a karate instructor, it might be an oil field scheduling or actuary or court reporter or any number of other things. That's what I love, is the idea of planning the life you want and then going to find it rather than who's hiring. Well, that's not a long-term success goal. I love your approach here, Hannah. I absolutely love it. I think this is fantastic. It's degreefree.com. degreefree.com. Coming up, I'm going to ask Hannah Maruyama. I'm going to ask her the however many minutes we have available, the things that most people don't know that would make the biggest difference. So the low-hanging fruit, the things that come up the most that she helps people with, and how you can get started today as a parent or as a young person. I'm a big one for getting your kids involved in this process, Mommy. Don't do it all for them. Okay, Hannah Maruyama, the redhead married to the Honolulu native. I want to know, what are the issues that come up the most when people start their one-on-one training? By the way, you can have one-on-one training with her, or you can buy the book, or there are workshops and workbooks and all sorts of stuff. It's all at degreefree.com. And I'm not saying don't go to college, folks. I'm saying just explore your options. Plan your life. Don't be blown about by the winds. Okay, what are the low-hanging fruit, Hannah?
So low-hanging fruit, well, there's a few things that parents need to know, I think, and that's parents are the biggest drivers of whether or not their kids buy college degrees, but a lot of parents just don't have the right information. They think their kids can only get good jobs if they go to college, but really that's just not the reality of it anymore. The market right now shows that ZipRecruiter's quarterly reports came out, 14.5% of job listings mention college degrees at all. And then on Indeed, it's 18%. So it's less than 1 in 5 that even say a college degree is preferred. We actually went through the Bureau of Labor Statistics and we counted and found that only 7.7% of jobs in our entire country actually legally require the purchase of a college degree to get. Interestingly, Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, he removed degree requirements from all state jobs that weren't necessary. There's, I think, 24 states that have done this so far in the last 2 years. But when he did that, it mirrored our data and it freed up 92% of the state jobs in Pennsylvania. So almost a directly related to our data, which is 92.3% of jobs don't require degrees. So it's just staggering. A lot of parents just think, oh, this is the only way for my child to be successful. Right. It's the only way for them to get a spouse. I'm sure you've heard that, actually, Michael.
Yep.
How many people do you think meet their spouse on a college campus these days? I have a good one for you.
For people who if you don't go to college, you can't meet your spouse there. But let's say for people who go to college, I'll bet 58% meet the person while they're at college.
0.74% of people meet their spouse on a college campus.
Right.
Not even 1%.
Wow. Okay, so even just going just college. Wow, that is very interesting. There's so much. Yep. I have so many friends that are big UT families or big Texas A&M families or big Alabama families. I was talking to one of my docs yesterday, and his daughter's graduating from Auburn. So I sent him War Eagle, and they're so proud. And families invest in the image. I know people that the most important thing they want you to know about them is they went to UT or they went to A&M, and they're 75. Right? And it's their identity. The way somebody's a Vietnam vet, that's their identity. I'm an Aggie. And you go, okay, well, that's great. But I think that people see that and they take from it the wrong thing.
I would agree with that. And I completely see why people do. It's because it's such an emotional purchase for them, right? They're spending so much money so early in their life, or their families are. And nowadays, I mean, the goal, and this is the thing we all should be asking, is why is there so much pressure on high schoolers to do this? Well, this is the only kind of debt that is bankruptcy exempt, and it is bankruptcy exempt specifically for 17 and 18-year-old kids whose parents are co-signing on these loans. Why in the world is there so much pressure on these kids to do this so young? College is not going anywhere. Colleges are businesses. They're hedge funds. They're always going to take your money. They're always going to take your kids' money because it's bankruptcy exempt debt. It's 6 figures on average. Like, why don't you wait until your child's 25? Because you might be able to cover the whole cost of their degree if they actually need it at that point, because no longer will your income be determining how much your child's getting charged, because they're not trying to reach through your child to get you. The largest group right now that's taken out student loans is actually grandparents, because they've tapped the parents out. The parents have their own student loans, and now they're going to the grandparents to get them to take out loans. And now you're threatening homes, pensions, all kinds of different things because of the amount of debt that
Hannah,
people are in.
Let's
and
be honest.
Not questioning the value.
How's your kid going to be a Sigma Chi if they're not in college? It's ridiculous.
You know what, Michael? I'll tell you. My middle sister, she was actually in the military because my family didn't have the money to pay for 4 kids to go to college. I was paying my own way when I did go before I broke out. But my middle sister, not the welder, but the other one, was actually an officer in the military. She still has student loans she's paying off, even though she had she went ROTC, but it's just, taking on loans to live the life, to live the college life that you haven't earned yet. And so many kids get caught up in that, and parents are the ones that are on the hook for it, but the parents are the ones that told them they had to go in the first place.
Right.
And so they can avoid that. And it's not you don't go, just don't go until you actually need to, or until you're sure what you're doing, because so many of these kids have no idea what's out there. And that's the biggest thing we found. But in the meantime, I'm a huge fan of sales. I think that all kids should go into sales. I think that if you're looking for how can you equip your child now for the future of work, and because I just came from AI, one thing I tell parents is there's 3 big things you can do. One thing is Toastmasters or local small business chamber of commerce. Amazing. Everybody has access to those things. Find those groups. It doesn't matter how small of a town that you live in. I know there's one in Montgomery, and it's a small town, but there's Toastmasters. Go take your kids and teach them how to public speak if you want them to be able to conquer the world, because these kids cannot, a lot of them, they can't look people in the eye, just they can't look people in the eye, they can't speak, and all your child has to be able to do is do that, and let them use AI tools heavily, because colleges are punishing them for doing that right now. And it's like watching somebody pay somebody $100,000 to kick them in the knees before they have to go run a marathon.
Oh,
because
I'm glad
it's
you said
ridiculous.
knees. I'm
It's
glad
like
you said knees. I didn't think you were going to say knees.
Oh,
Hannah,
man.
I love what you've done here.
I'm from Savannah, so.
I love what you've done
Thank
here.
you.
And in the midst of it, not lost on me, is you have done exactly what you're teaching other people to do. You and Ryan have created a business, right? And you've used technology. You're obviously the face of the company. You're a great communicator. You're good at this. You're good online. And so in the midst of all this, here is yet another business that is being created. And some people are uncomfortable with that. I like to talk about making money and how we make money and how much money you want to make and how you want to live and what you want to do with that money and all the fun you can have and things you can. But I love that you have set this up, that y'all have created this life, that you find a spot on the map based on all the factors you want, low cost of living, close to an airport, all the things that probably went for you, low crime rate. It's how you want to live. And it's even beyond your career. It's a question of what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of person do you want to marry? Whoever shows up next to you at the bar and you sleep with and you wake up the next morning, why not? Or somebody that shares your values that you would want to go on a road trip with, what you want to do for a career, where you want to live. I love it. Hannah, we should have you back. You're wonderful. Tell Ryan thanks for sharing you with us for, has it been an hour? Wow, whole hour.
The Michael Berry Show.